This is deep in our calculus about what a good experience is for a customer and what's healthy for the future of our industry and the future of the world.
Okay, so stop me if this isn't the first tech executive you've heard wax on about how their product can save the world. Except this isn't just any tech executive. This is Apple's Craig Federighi. He sits right below Apple CEO Tim Cook on the org chart.
Does Tim Cook really call you Superman?
Certainly not to my face.
Okay. Does he call you Air Force One?
Lord, no. Usually Craig.
The software on your iPhone, iPad, or Mac, Federighi oversees the development of it all. He's got a lot of power, and he's been putting it behind a new privacy feature called ATT, App Tracking Transparency, being released today in iOS 14.5. Apps now have to ask to track you in a pop-up like this. Apple only gave me 15 minutes with Mr. Federighi to talk about the new feature.
Joanna, am I just a voice or do I have a face?
So,
I've got my stopwatch. I did not trust the Apple stopwatch app. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to explain what app tracking transparency is.
All right, I think I can do it in 8 seconds.
And go.
App tracking transparency gives users the choice of whether they want to be tracked across apps and websites.
8.69.
Oh, sorry. I could do it again faster.
well, it's a bit deeper than that.
It also affects something called the IDFA, which is an identifier that iOS has had for many years.
Every iPhone has this unique tracking number, and it's used to track your activity between apps. So say you're thinking about buying, I don't know, Craig's blue shirt in this shopping app. The shopping app has your unique tracking number. Then you open your favorite social media app, and what do you know? A shirt ad. That's because the two apps shared info using the IDFA. In iOS 14.5, this number isn't automatically shared. If you want to let the apps share it, you'd have to tap Allow here.
We needed to make sure both that the user had a clear understanding of the decision and that we gave the developer an opportunity to explain themselves as to the purpose for which they were potentially asking to track. And so the developer, of course, can present messaging even before they ask the system to prompt the user. And then they also get a little area on the panel itself to explain that they're using this for presenting more effective ads or whatever the case may be.
Why the verbiage ask not to track? Why not just do not track?
There are other techniques that developers over time have developed, like fingerprinting as a bit of cat and mouse game around other ways that an app might scheme to create a tracking identifier. And it's a policy issue for us to say, you must not do that. And so we can't ensure at the system level that they're not tracking. We can do so at a policy level.
Will there be any Apple apps with the ATT pop-up?
No, not at this time. I mean, there's no Apple app or service that tracks, that there's no app that is sharing information with external data brokers, no app or service of ours that is tracking you across other vendors, apps, and websites. If we ever did do something that fits the definition of tracking, we of course would have to show that prompt.
So I wanted to read a quote from Steve Jobs back in 2010, and he said, I believe some people
want to share more data than other people do. Ask them. Ask them every time.
We, the people of the internet, we're sort of sick of pop-ups. I don't want to speak for everyone on the internet, but I think most are. How did you think about that?
I share your frustration with sometimes being bombarded with every website, usually telling you that they're going to track you with a big blue accept button and no real choice at all. We had to make it a meaningful choice, and we had to make it a clear choice and one that had effect. And that, I think, is in deep contrast to most of what you see on the internet. As people get today's update and begin to launch apps, they'll see it at first, and pretty soon this will become a pretty infrequent occurrence, both because some apps will stop tracking or maybe never did, and the apps that you use that do track, you'll make that decision once and that'll be it.
You also have a choice to turn off all these pop-ups and completely opt out of any tracking in all apps. You can go to Settings, Privacy, Tracking, and switch off Allow Apps to Ask to Track. What will Craig do?
For me, ask app not to track.
And well, that's what the industry expects the majority of people to pick too. And all sorts of companies, apps, and social media networks that rely on data for personalized advertising aren't happy about it. Facebook specifically has called Apple's move hypocritical and anti-competitive.
We've been on this road of improving privacy protections in our platform for really since the beginning of iPhone, and before that, truthfully. And so we're accustomed to initially some panicked responses from some quarters. It wasn't surprising to us, I think, to hear that some people were going to push back on this, but at the same thing, we were completely confident that it's the right thing to give users a choice here.
But what's in all of this for Apple? Is this all altruistic for this trillion-dollar company?
How much is privacy factoring into buying decisions? Do you have a sense of that?
Boy, I don't know. I'd hope that it's a value that is so deep in us. Personal information can be used and abused and even weaponized in ways that can be really, really destructive, often in a way that's not at all apparent to the person who might be giving up that information. Years ago, people were saying, oh, privacy's dead. No one, everyone's given up their privacy. And so we just kept doing it because to us, regardless of whether it was a selling point for a phone, we thought it was the right thing.
A lot of the criticism right now about Apple is about control, and that it has too much control specifically over its platforms and the App Store. What's the conversation like right now amongst you and other top brass at Apple about this?
Well, I think we've always felt that customers have a real choice in terms of what phone they want to buy, what ecosystem they want to be a part of. And we think we're offering people a choice to buy into an ecosystem where there is a degree of curation, where there is protection for privacy, where there are certain standards. We don't think everyone's going to prefer that choice.
Do you feel like there will need to be from Apple a lessening of some of the control?
I don't know. I feel like we're making the right choices now. We're always considering the right things primarily from a customer perspective. So as long as we're keeping our eye on that North Star, I think we feel good about the course we're on.
And of course, I had to sneak in a few non-privacy questions.
Wireless charging, corded charging.
I am primarily a cord guy. I have enough devices that it works out for me with my stacking arrangements.
Tim said, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, that he says he won't be at Apple for, at least in the next 10 years, he will not stay at Apple for the next 10 years. Your name's being floated.
Insanity. Yeah, no, that would be irresponsible.
How's the software going on the mixed reality headset?
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
What do you think of mixed reality?
I think it's got a lot of potential. I think it deserves exploration.
Whatever that next big Apple product looks like, it's a pretty safe bet that Mr. Federighi is going to be pushing hard for privacy in it.
These devices are so intimately a part of our lives and contain so much of what we're thinking and where we've been and who we've been with that users deserve and need control of that information. Abuses can range from creepy to dangerous.